I was about to put the gold jacket on Caleb Williams.
Yeah.
Am I overreacting to that, Sam, or are you
Well,
as enamored with some of the things that he was pulling off on the field the other day?
I mean, obviously you're overreacting to it, but it's tough, right? Because the late Mike Renner, and we're soon to join the ranks of
How will we
the
do
departed.
that? Would we say like rest in peace if it was about something we did previously?
I don't know. Yeah, I don't know what the.
I wrote this article in 2014. Rest in peace.
Right.
Like that
yeah,
type
I don't
of
know
thing.
what the protocol is for that, but anyway, the late Mike Renner, now of CBS, tweeted out, for all these people that are like, it's only preseason, blah blah. Who hurt you? And I replied, Zach Wilson. Because remember, Zach Wilson's preseason debut was like his first preseason. Yeah. He looked so good, so calm, efficient, like in sync with the offense, just dealing, just looked ready, right?
Yeah.
And okay, he wasn't necessarily doing the kind of crazy special things, but he just looked like he was going to be good. And then obviously Zach Wilson from that point on has been awful, right? So he's a good cautionary tale of like, look, it is only preseason. And we see it every year. Guys will look really good in preseason, and then the regular season starts and it's different. It doesn't translate, etc., right? But there's the flip side of that. The guys that are good in the NFL announce themselves in preseason. And there is something to that. Like you can see when guys are different right away. It's just that it's difficult to separate those guys and differentiate them from the ones that are selling you fool's gold along the way. So the point being, what we're seeing from Caleb Williams, when you couple it with his college career and everything we've seen from him so far, and the reason he was a number one overall prospect, it's very difficult not to get excited and to get carried away. And I think it was 3 straight plays, or like one play, then a couple, and then 2 consecutive plays. But there was a 3-play sequence where he showed like vintage college Caleb Williams ad-libbing, just ridiculousess that like, this is becoming a cliche as well, but like how many quarterbacks in the NFL can make these plays? There are very few.
5 or 6.
Right. And they're all amazing, right? There are very few quarterbacks in today's NFL that could make that 3-play sequence that Caleb Williams made. The number one, like rolling out to his left and then dropping an absolute dime into Roma Dunze's bucket for a really big play, get him into the shadow of the goal line. The second play, he like ad-libs, makes a guy miss in the open field like he's not even there, puts it in the back of the end zone.
That was my favorite one.
Right. Odunze's stepped over the line. He's, keeping the feet in. Only the feet are 1.5 feet outside of the line. And then the third one where he just takes it in himself. Like, okay, any one of those plays, maybe a few quarterbacks can do that. All 3 of them together in the space of like 5 minutes.
Yeah.
There really is a very small list of quarterbacks that can do that. And okay, the question is still, did he need to vacate the pocket on all those plays? Could he just, deliver the ball? Can he stay within the confines of the offense? But that 3-play sequence was special, and that's a reason to get very excited for Bears fans.
Yes. I mean, so look, all those plays showed his traits, natural athletic ability, but for me, mostly it's just the football instincts, right? So look, are you requesting quarterbacks to bail from a clean pocket? Are you coaching them up? Are you teaching them to do that? Absolutely not. That is what he did on that first roll left downfield pass to Roma Dunze. But as I said last week on the show right here, Caleb Williams, one of the best, if not the best, on-the-move thrower in the NFL already. I don't believe that is going to change. The criticism, I mean, if there's criticisms coming out of that game, he missed a couple early. Looked like he rushed a little bit, including, roll out into the flat when he was on the move. Held the ball a little bit too long for a sack. Probably could have ripped a seam route instead of taking the sack. And so this is what will separate Williams from the elite quarterbacks. Because when you say how many quarterbacks can do this, of course, everybody says, well, Mahomes, Josh Allen does this type of stuff. Lamar Jackson can do these types of things. So if Caleb Williams is going to be among the elite, I think it's fair to say he can already do some of the special type of stuff that Mahomes and Josh Allen and Lamar and whoever else you want to put into that bucket can do instinctually on the football field as a runner, as a passer. But those first couple plays, the quote-unquote easy stuff, he did that in game 1, right? He kind of went through reads and hit a backside curl, Just has to do that more consistently. If he's going to be special, elite, get a little bit better at the easier stuff. And so the bet you're making here is essentially that will come along, right? That will come along with time. We'll start to hit a few more of the layups. We'll choose when to hit the layups rather than bailing from a clean pocket. Because I think even on the Adunze play, he had a backside receiver coming open that he could have hit, right? That if he was painting by numbers,
right?
Jared Goff, that's how you describe Goff. If he was painting by numbers like Jared Goff, probably hits a little backside in cut, 8 to 10 yards, and then you move on to the next play. But there's going to be a balance here between Caleb Williams taking the traditional route versus making the special plays. And I think as he finds that balance throughout his career, he's got a chance to be special.
And there is also a chance that he is so talented at the ad-libbing stuff that the rules don't necessarily apply the same way they do for other people. I mean, this is the Mahomes dynamic again, right? That Mahomes does a whole bunch of stuff that most people would never, not only would they not coach them to do it that way, they would actively coach them to stop doing it that way, right?
Yeah.
Like, don't do this. Even Brett Favre, a Hall of Famer, can't get away with these plays. That's crazy. And yet Mahomes is consistently able to do that. So at some point you just look at it and say, what the hell? Like, he can make it work. Like, I'm not going to mess with it. If Caleb, and that second play, your favorite, the should have been touchdown to Adunze, like, I think what's becoming clear, even through a couple of preseason games, is his athleticism and ability to make NFL defenders look ridiculous is actually significantly higher than maybe people gave him credit for. It's not just like, it's not like Russell Wilson necessarily where you can sort of bounce around and just extend the time a bit. Like, he can make people look ridiculous and have almost an endless amount of time back there to find something and make it work. That changes the rules for him, right? It's not the same as it is for somebody else where you have a finite amount of time, the clock ticks down, and now you're done. Like, the clock ticks down, there's a guy in his face, and then he makes that guy fall over, and then he's got 2 more seconds to find something else. Like, he might be ridiculous enough where the rules change, and now you actually don't need him to play inside the structure as much as a normal quarterback that can't do some of that stuff.
Zach Wilson, not in the preseason. Zach Wilson in the NFL, he had those points. Remember that one time I was like, Sam, it seems like every throw he makes is from right next to the sideline.
Right.
Zach Wilson was bailing from clean pockets and not seeing the field and trying to do too much outside of structure. And every now and again he would mix in a splash play. But it wasn't special enough where you're just like, well, that's just Zach Wilson. He's just an artist. You don't want to mess with him. I do think Caleb is special enough that is the case, right? That you're going to pass up some of the traditional stuff to get some of those special plays. I just want to remind people, though, I think what makes Mahomes elite and special, what makes Josh Allen, what brought Josh Allen in year 3 to the level of elite quarterbacks was playing within structure, playing within rhythm, and doing that extremely well. That was probably the most surprising thing when you saw Mahomes break out in 2018 was that it was like, oh wow, he is playing within Andy Reid's system and adding his own artistic ability on top of that, right? It is a combination. And what made Mahomes special, I think at that time, was like he's just not missing a whole lot. He just doesn't miss a whole lot of throws. The highlight reel's special, it's awesome, but he's just not missing a whole lot, right? He's not missing open receivers, missing throws, taking negative plays. And then Allen got to that point as well where he was able to play within structure. I know Allen has all those turnovers and everything, but we've said this about Allen too. You can't just do a list of Josh Allen's turnovers and be like, oh man, Josh better stop playing, because the incredible plays that he adds on the other end offset the turnovers. No other quarterback in the league can actually say that and actually play the way Josh Allen does. So I think at the end of the day, Caleb Williams ends up with his own unique, breakdown of what we expect at the high end and what you're willing to give up maybe on the lower end. Again, he took a sack. He missed a couple easy throws. He bailed from a clean pocket but turned it into a 50-yarder, right? Like those things, I think at the end of the day, you're just going to say, hey, we want those explosives and we want those special plays.
Yeah, he's going to play the game in a unique way. I mean, we're sort of trying to force him into some kind of conformed bucket of how a quarterback is supposed to play. but he's going to end up carving a new pathway the same way Josh Allen did, the same way Aaron Rodgers did, where he was amazing, but there's always a unique quirk to how each one of these amazing quarterbacks plays that isn't sort of robotically picture perfect. There's always something that they do that maybe isn't quite perfect, but it's just the way that they've skewed in their performance. Like Rodgers always took sort of too many sacks relative to what you want, but he offset that by he never turned the ball over. Like he's the most careful quarterback maybe ever in terms of not throwing interceptions, and that created some of these more sacks. Like Caleb Williams is going to have his own unique way of playing this game that won't fit into just this, like, hey, this is the picture perfect way of doing it.
Yeah, I think Rodgers is the other comp, right? Rodgers definitely took more sacks than the other elite quarterbacks of his era, right? It was a clear Brady, Manning, Breeze, and Rodgers. And Rodgers always took way more negative plays than those other guys, but it was okay overall because he offset them with the special. So it'll be interesting to see where that balance is for Caleb Williams. Other guys, I mean, Russell Wilson, Deshaun Watson, when they were at the peak of their powers, they would also take way too many sacks, way too many negative plays. And I may have said the same thing. I said, look, Watson with Houston does a lot of special stuff, but got to learn how to take what's there a little bit more often, not take those negative plays. It'll be interesting to see where Caleb Williams lands with that balance. Is he going to take 3 or 4 sacks per game, maybe fire the ball into coverage a little bit too much, but offset that with those high-end plays that he's capable of. But look, it was another week. He's going to be must-see TV every single week. And it was another week where he showed all of those traits play on an NFL field, even against backups for the Bengals.
Right. Yeah, I mean, so this is one where I think the idea of like that criticism, oh, he only did it against the backups. This was the one where it's most irrelevant, right? Because it's like, look at the plays he was making. It's not about who he, like.
If he rolled left and threw the ball 50 yards, pinpoint on air,
right,
I'm like, whoa, that's pretty awesome.
Right.
Like Zach Wilson literally did that at a pro day, and everybody's like, whoa, that's incredible.
There's no cornerback that you could put out there on that rep that makes that play less impressive, right? Now, there's a cornerback that might have been absolutely glued to Odunze and maybe broken it up at the catch point, but the ball was still perfectly thrown into a spot that would lead to a completion if the cornerback let it get there. Like, there's nobody, like, if Sauce Gardner was the guy out there, right? Maybe it's an incompletion, but it's still an amazing Caleb Williams play, and you're coming away with exactly the same, like, takeaway of what he's capable of.